Good evening. This is Rick from DreamSideOut. Number 27 of the 30 videos in 30 days project that I'm doing for the month of November 2018. While digging through my archive of art, lots of memories come up. And this is kind of one of the things a journal does for you. You go back and things come back up. And when I look at some of these pieces, I'm taken back in time to places and people and thoughts that I had back then. There were discussions about the age-old debate over whether art forms culture or culture forms art, and how those two work together. And I remember the heated debates over it back when I was studying and trying to learn more about art. An interesting thing I remember is during the Cold War era. That's about the same era that I was in high school and college. The Cold War was still going on. And Russia, they were the bad guys. And sounds like they're becoming the bad guys again, but that's another story. But it seems like in the art world, naturalism was considered, or naturalism, what I mean by that is realistic painting that was kind of in the tradition of the old masters, representational art. In the Western world, the avant-garde movement of abstract expressionism, that was the realism movement was considered old school. It was done. It was over. It was not valid anymore as art. You were just repeating things that have already been done, because the whole philosophy of the avant-garde was to come up with something new and shocking. And those who held to it were backwards, kind of like the communists at that time. Because if you look at history, the communists back then, the Russians, they had a movement called Russian realism, as I remember about this. And that was, they were looked at as being kind of stuck and not moving forward, because they were stuck in the practice and tradition of realistic art, whereas the rest of the world was experimenting with abstract expressionism and all these new movements of art. But what I find hilarious is how that discussion has completely flipped in my lifetime. How nowadays I hear on YouTube young people going back over history and attaching abstract expressionist type of art to the communist manifesto, and it was part of the postmodernists and the communists. They came up with this, and naturalism is really the real thing, and that's real art and real beauty, and we all know that. We're all kind of hijacked in it by this this avant-garde thing that came out of nowhere. But yet, back then, it was the abstract art was the art of the bourgeoisie. According to the communists, it was naturalism that was the art that was understandable by the proletariat. Anything that the proletariat can't easily understand is degenerate art. It's a crazy discussion, because I've just seen it go back and forth. The funny thing about it is art seems to be used whenever somebody wants to you know, put down their enemy. They'll take the art they don't like and attach that to their enemy, right? Now, I don't know, that's just an observation I've made, because I was caught in the middle of that, sort of. I saw the cultural change happening when I was in art school, and it seemed like I was torn in two directions, and it's kind of nice that it's swinging back in the direction that I like now, but I remember when it's going the other way. It's just kind of funny. You guys, I guess this is one of those kinds of discussions you wouldn't understand unless you're into this type of thing. And you've seen cultural changes occur in your lifetime. I guess when you get to a certain age, you can look back and can see certain cultural changes. Can you guys? I mean, you guys that are, in your, 60s or older, over 50. I mean, you can see. You've seen some real changes, right? And it's hard to explain that to the generation that's younger. I guess I sound like an old guy now, but I don't know. And I remember, I guess I remember people talking about similar things back then. But well, anyway, that's a nice little ramble for tonight. Again, where do you get this kind of content? Anywhere on YouTube? Where can you see a guy sitting in a box van with a little whisk broom over his shoulder talking about art? I mean, you just don't get that anywhere except here, right? Guys, have a good day.